All right, hey guys, Corey here, and I've had a lot of people ask me about the Peloton Treadmill, and I figured I had a pretty good opportunity to compare the top two treadmills. I would say in the residential like home market that are out there right now. So I have behind me, you see on the left, I've got the Peloton Treadmill. And on the right is the Nordictrack Commercial 2950, which I bought a year ago and have put about 1,500 miles on over the last year or so. So while I have both treadmills and I haven't sold the Nordictrack one yet, I figured I'd put together a little review and a comparison for you guys so you can make a better decision at home rather than having to just bite the bullet and make the big purchase, not knowing if it's for you. So first things first, the biggest difference I noticed with between the two treadmills is obviously appearance, right? The Peloton is so much sleeker. It's obviously a brand new design, something from the ground up. And I think that's true once you really get into the user interface and the software that the Peloton comes with. There's just a huge difference. It's really hard to compare the two. The comparison I always would give is it's like comparing a Chevy Volt to a Tesla. So it's like this old dinosaur company that tried to build something super modern and new, and it's all right, but it's not that good, versus the Peloton where they just built it from the ground up and really used the most advanced technology to do it. So, I mean, in terms of what's available on the Peloton has its own software that you pay a subscription for. You get the live programming and all that stuff. Nordictrack has the same thing with iFit. iFit is a monthly subscription that you can get, but iFit, don't even bother. It's useless. I really don't like it. I think that the user interface is clunky. It's not very fast. I don't think that the processor's that great, and I don't know. I just wasn't super happy with the user interface. So the Nordictrack for the last year, rarely would I interact with the touchscreen and all the bells and whistles. I just get on it and I would run. So one of the other major differences that most people notice is the belt. So the belt on the Peloton is the thick rubber slats versus the belt on the Nordictrack, which is like your standard belt. So for those of you that have run on a treadmill before, I imagine if you're watching this video, you have, the traditional belt is super squishy. And the whole deck itself is designed to have shock absorption, right? So it's a very comfortable, it's a nice feel. A lot of us are used to it. It's quite a bit easier than running outside, which is why they say, oh, put your treadmill up at a 1% incline, stuff like that, to try to simulate a more realistic effort for running outdoors. Now, the Peloton is different because the deck itself has absolutely no shock absorption. It's solid as a rock. I think the deck weighs like 300 pounds. All of the shock absorption that you get is in the thick rubber slats. So I'll kind of try to give you a little bit of a close-up of the thick rubber slats. So if you look closely, you can see, that you just have a nice thick rubber slat that's on a steel or aluminum, I don't know, belt that rotates around. So all of your shock absorption is right here versus, a super thin belt where all your shock absorption comes from the deck itself. It makes a pretty big difference. The comparison I would give it is, running on a treadmill, a traditional treadmill is kind of its own unique experience. It's a little bit squishy, very forgiving. The treadmill and the Peloton I would compare it to running on a track, like a high school track. It's got just about that amount of cushion on it, which for some people is not a good thing because the more, the firmer the surface, all of your form issues with running in terms of heel striking and how you run, that's going to magnify when you don't have all of that squishiness that a traditional treadmill deck has. So you might notice that, oh, maybe your knees are a little more sore, maybe you got some hip flexor issues or some IT band tendonitis. All of that stuff is going to be magnified on a firmer surface. So I've seen on forums online a lot of people complaining that the treadmill, they notice that their joints are hurting more, things like that. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily their joints are sore. I think that they're getting tendonitis, they're flaring out because their form issues for running are being magnified, and they're getting some inflammation in places that they would be getting if they were running outside more. So that's the deck. Or the treadmill and the deck itself. Now, the other thing about traditional treadmill belts is they slip. Treadmill belts are rotating on these little steel, or on these drums on the front and the back. And if the heavier you are and the more you heel strike, that belt is going to skip every time you hit it. And you might not even feel it, but there's a little bit of micro slippage on that belt every single time your foot hits the deck. Now, if it slips a lot, if you've ever been on a treadmill that's poorly adjusted and slips a lot, it's actually pretty dangerous. It can make you stumble and trip. The Peloton, there's absolutely no slippage. The way the belt's designed, zero slippage at all, which is actually pretty nice. And what I've noticed is what it allows you to do is a lot of times in the Peloton classes, they'll have you do like a side shuffle on the treadmill itself. And that's not, it's really not that comfortable or possible on a traditional treadmill belt, just because of the slippage. And when you plant your foot in the front there, it doesn't feel the same, and it's really not as friendly for that. The other thing I really liked about one other thing about the two are the motors. A lot of people look at the horsepower of the motors themselves to determine whether or not it's a good treadmill or a bad treadmill. And there were a lot of concerns because the Peloton has a 2 horsepower treadmill motor, which is one of the weakest motors out there. The Nordictrack has a 4.5 horsepower motor. Now, I'm not an electrician. I don't know. I'm not that great with the difference between AC and DC and all of that stuff. But what I can tell you is this. The 2 horsepower motor on the Peloton gets up to speed and incline much faster than the Nordictrack. So however the design is, I don't know if it's AC versus DC or what it is, the tread motor on the Peloton has more than enough power. So don't sweat about that. I've seen a lot of concerns about that. And I was concerned about it too. Now, in terms of convenience for the two, there's no question the Nordictrack is more convenient because, the Nordictrack, it's easy. You just flip this up, save yourself a little bit of space if you want. You can tilt it back and roll it around. This thing, forget about it. It is so incredibly heavy. Now, you can incline the Peloton treadmill and you can lift it up on some rollers in the front, but it's a 2 or 3 man job for sure because it's so heavy. So that, I would say, is an advantage for the Nordictrack, being able to move around, especially if you live in a tight space. Now, let's see here, what else? A lot of people have complained about vibration on the Peloton. It's true, the Peloton does vibrate more, especially when the incline goes up. When the incline goes up, the front feet come off the floor and then it's supported just on this little riser bar. And I've noticed that you do see a little bit more shaking. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal for me. I think that a lot of people have severe shaking or shakiness issues because the feet aren't level, front to back or side to side, and that's causing the shaking to be even worse than it otherwise would be. But between the two, definitely more vibration when the Peloton is on an incline. When the Peloton's flat, I don't think the vibration is a whole lot more than the Nordictrack. In terms of noise on both treadmills, I think that I ran an app that's a decibel meter on my phone for both of them. The Peloton is 87 decibels, I want to say, at 8 miles an hour versus 77 decibels on the Nordictrack. So an increase of 10 on the decibel scale is a factor of 2. So the Peloton is twice as loud as the Nordictrack. Now, what I would say the biggest difference is in terms of noise is what you hear on the Peloton is just this constant hum of the motor. It's just louder. Versus the Nordictrack, the motor is very quiet, and what you hear is the thud, thud, thud of your feet hitting the treadmill. That's, I would say, the biggest difference in the noise is that the Nordictrack, you're going to hear footsteps. The Peloton, you just hear this constant hum, and you don't hear any footsteps, which for me, I mean, obviously I'm in my garage, so it doesn't really matter how loud it is. But if this is in a guest bedroom somewhere, I don't know. I mean, I would say that the constant hum of the Peloton might be less annoying than the hearing footsteps, running. So I don't know. I think it's just kind of a taste thing. I think what I'll do is I'll get on it and I'll run on both of them, and we'll see if there's a noticeable difference on the treadmill. What I'll do is I'll move this camera. Let's move it maybe right here, and I'll run on I'll run on both treadmills. We'll see if there's a noticeable difference between the two. So I'll start on the Nordictrack here, and we'll put it at 8 miles an hour. Notice how long this takes to get up to speed. And we'll compare that with the Peloton. So this is it, 8 miles an hour. This is how noisy it is. Now we'll jump over here, and we'll get on the Peloton. So I don't know if that was helpful or not. I guess we'll see when I pull it up online, or on the computer. But maybe that'll give you a little comparison as to how much noise each of them make. Now, why don't we go through and look at the user interface of both of them. So when you're looking at, I'll end this run. When you're looking at the Nordictrack, this is where you start. So with iFit, they do have like these runs you can do with the trainers. You can browse, they have a workout library. And I think they're starting to feel the heat with Peloton, and they're really starting to up their game with this. But I found them to be very jerky in terms of the video quality was very jerky, and the way that the treadmill itself adjusts to terrain. So a lot of these, you're going out and you're running like, I don't know, you're running up in a mountain somewhere with this guy. So it'll adjust the incline based on the elevation of the mountain. The problem is it adjusts it like by 0.1 continuously. So all you hear the whole time you're running is wah, wah, wah. It's always going up and down and up and down. I found it to be extremely annoying to the point where I was done. I really didn't want to use it at all. One other advantage you might point out is Nordictrack does have a fan hooked in here where the Peloton doesn't. All right, Peloton user interface. I mean, it's so let's go back to my This is kind of my home page, my calendar, all the workouts that I've done, my badges, and profile. You can tell the screen is so much crisper and so much brighter. It's much more like using an iPhone versus that, which is just a lot clunkier. So here we go. We can go to classes, see what classes are coming up. You can go through, I mean, there's probably 1,000 now that you can do, and you can filter them all by walking, running, boot camp, floor workouts. So you've got floor strength, stretching, yoga, meditation, cardio. So they've got a lot. I've done the yoga classes and things like that, and they're actually quite nice. I really like them. Okay, sorry, I had to change the battery of my GoPro here. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I mean, they've got some awesome classes, anywhere from a 5-minute warm-up up to an hour-long endurance run. So I love it, and I would say the best feature by far of the Peloton Treadmill, and for me, one of the biggest selling points versus just buying a subscription for the app and then just using your old treadmill, would be the leaderboard. So let's go to, what if I just go to a class? I'll show you guys the leaderboard in case you're interested. So if I go to a running and I go to 30-minute intervals run, I hit start, and there's a heart rate. You got to make sure you connect your heart rate. There's Bluetooth audio if you want an audio speaker or headphones to hook up to. But I would say the biggest, one of the biggest things is the leaderboard. So we're gonna spend the next 30 minutes up on this tread, so the leaderboard is I'm gonna try to turn this down here. So the leaderboard is awesome because it gives you a point total based on how many kilojoules that you have burned during your workout, and puts you on a leaderboard and ranks against everybody else. Now the cool thing is, not only if you're doing a live class, it will rank you against everybody in the class live, but if I take, like, this class is pre-recorded. So if I go in, it'll give me the all-time point leaders for this class. So you can still compete with people even if you're not taking it at the same time as them, which I really liked. You don't get this feature if you're just using the app and you're streaming the app and using a different treadmill, because it doesn't know how fast you're going, it doesn't know your incline. So anyway, I love this feature, and to me this is one of the biggest selling points of the Peloton Tread. What else? I think the music, the speakers, I think the speakers are pretty good. They're not like, awesome, but I think that they're adequate. When I'm running with the noise of the treadmill, I can hear the audio through the speakers just fine with it at about 75% volume. Now, I could imagine that if you had any sort of hearing loss, that it could be a challenge, and you might have to use Bluetooth headphones to help you hear the audio. What else? The other thing that's pretty cool about the treadmill is you can do a screencast. So you can cast the screen to a TV nearby. You have to have a certain device. I have a Google Chromecast. I have an Amazon Fire Stick. Neither of which, a new Amazon Fire Stick, neither of which will work to cast. I heard that the only one that really works is a Roku, so I guess I'm gonna have to get a Roku. But apparently the older version of the Amazon Fire Sticks would do it, but the newer versions don't for some reason. And Google Chromecast, I guess, doesn't work. So anyway, that'll be cool, because when I do my floor workouts, I plan on casting it up to the TV up there, because I'll do my floor workouts down there. So in terms of space to put things, there's a big tray here for the Peloton, which is nice. Although when I'm running, things do tend to rattle on here, which can be a little bit irritating. So I put my water bottle like up here on my sprinkler control box. Why not? Over here with the Peloton, with the Nordictrack, you have a tray down here, and you also have 2 water bottle holders right here. So I kind of like that feature a little bit better. What else? I think one of the biggest features of this treadmill, and the fact that it's a brand new design, is the speed knob and the incline knob, which I have to say are super, super convenient. With this treadmill, actually, the design of the speed controls, having one-touch incline and speed are pretty convenient as well. But the ones where you have to sit there and individually hit up and down, it's a deal breaker for me. What else about this treadmill that's new? Oh, the free mode. Free mode's super cool. So free mode, you hit the free mode and it disengages the motor, and you can just push the tread belt yourself. So there's a lot of workouts where they'll put you in free mode for 5 or 10 minutes, and oh man, let me tell you, it is a brutal workout. Brutal. So let's go out of there. So anyway, I think that all in all, I think both of them have some good and bad features about it. And you know, the price that I paid for this one a year ago was about $2,400. The price that I paid for the Peloton obviously is $4,000. So huge difference in price. Is it worth it? I don't know. I mean, I think if you talk to a financial advisor and you're trying to like break it down, like, oh, well, you know, it's $4,000. So if I don't go to the gym, it'll pay itself off. I don't know. I don't really buy that. I think it's a luxury product. And I think that if it's going to break the bank for you, then don't buy it, because or I mean, maybe if you're a super serious runner and you spend a lot of time on the treadmill. I put about 60 or 70 miles a week on it, and the more realistic running experience, like with the new belt, was worth it to me. And having the leaderboard up there is icing on the cake, because I really enjoy having that competitive factor to it. What else do I want to say? Oh, there was a lot of people wondering about the Peloton Treadmill. Said you have to have a dedicated circuit for the Peloton itself. Now, I have to say, I didn't really buy it. And so I have my Peloton plugged in to this little surge protector, which also is powering my Sonos speaker, which is up here, and my sprinkler control box over there. I've had other things plugged into it, and I've never once had an issue. So I wouldn't really sweat it in terms of having a dedicated circuit. I think that as long as you have a grounded outlet, it's probably fine to just plug it in, you know, and go with it. But I suppose if you're blowing your circuit, then you'll have to figure something out. But I think that's pretty much it. I mean, they're both. I was happy with this one when I got it, and it is a much softer running experience. So if that's important to you, then maybe the Nordictrack is a better option. But all in all, I'm super happy with the Peloton. I think the customer service has been great. The warranty, you know, is 3 years. Well, you can extend it to 3 years, which is what I would highly recommend anyone doing if you're buying a first generation product. But I think that's it. Happy to answer any questions in the comments. All right, take care.